or defeat the recommendation. I will remind members of council that we should continue to be mindful of our decision-making wheel to make balanced and respectful decisions while adhering to our code of conduct. We will be voting by poll. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences? None? CEO Trope, could you please take the roll call?
Good evening, Mayor Snow, and based upon what I see here by the names, all of council is present and accounted for.
Thank you very much. CAO, we have been provided with a proposed agenda. Do you have anything to add?
There is, Mayor Snow, there's a few items. So what I would suggest under new business, item 8A, which is an item pertaining to a presentation from Government House. Item 8B, which is new committees and appointed members. And then we also have 3 items tonight for our in-camera session. We'll call it 10A, which is a 9.2 acre parcel of land. Item 10B, a 0.53 acre parcel of land. And 10C, which is lot 2D.
Excellent, thank you very much. Are there any further additions or deletions to this agenda? If I could have a motion to accept the additions.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Second,
I'll
Councillor Huntley, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. All right, you have been circulated the minutes of the February 8th, 2021 CAC meeting. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and the annotated minutes will be added to the electric meeting file as approved. Nothing to add? All right, all good. We're moving on. We have 2 presentations this evening, and we're very pleased to welcome our presenters. We have allocated 10 minutes for your presentation, and then you will be open to council for discussion and questions. So our first presentation is the Community Alcohol Partnership with Daisy Dwyer. Hello, Daisy. How are you?
You're on mute.
I'm Gwyneth. I'm Daisy's right-hand gal here. I'm with the Health Authority. I can talk.
Okay, thank you.
Daisy, you're on mute. If you can unmute your button. And I'm going to share my screen to get our PowerPoint up while that happens. You see our PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'll get that going here. From beginning. Daisy, are you with us? I know that we only have a few minutes, so I am just going to go ahead and hopefully Daisy just speak up if you get yourself unmuted, or if you're having difficulty, just let us know when you join us. So our Community Alcohol Partner, it's a group of community partners that has been working together, roughly since, I'll say 2011, 2010 maybe, and we have a little bit of history further in the slides. And our goal is to work together to support communities to prevent and reduce alcohol-related harm. And so we're always very clear. It's not that we drink, it's how we drink. So we're not about eliminating alcohol. We're our goal is to eliminate the harms from alcohol. So yeah, back in 2014, we had a large forum at the Louis Millet in New Minas there. Where Kings County partners came together broadly to begin to talk about community and alcohol. So the big thing about this is it's not just individual harms. Think about, oh yes, there are some people who struggle with alcoholism or have individual difficulty with alcohol, But the whole piece around this is taking a population health approach around that our communities are impacted by alcohol use. And some of you may have seen some of the municipal alcohol project work that happened starting in municipalities. Created some documents around what does alcohol look like in our town. So Wolfville did one, Brunish, Truro, Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, what used to be UNSM. I keep getting their new name mixed up. On the members page, you can go into the alcohol project page when you get into your members, and you can see all of those documents and a fair bit of research that we did over those years and some of that work. But this was community level, and we have a report that's connected to this that really talks about how the community sees alcohol harms and what they might want to do about that. Started with the community health boards, broadened to large partnerships, and really trying to help communities understand that bigger picture around alcohol. Kind of, if you think about the early days of tobacco, it's a similar piece around alcohol, that there are individual, but there are also community level harms. So here are some of our partners that we're working with that join us month by month to have some of these conversations. And we've had different groups have come and gone over the years, and this is kind of the core group currently. And I'm not going to read all of those, but you can see those. We've had a really fruitful partnership with Acadia, which has been awesome, particularly around some research pieces, etc. And it's Kentville Police that have been here when we've in our terms of our police. It's been largely the Kentville Police that have joined us off and on over the years. So for our community alcohol project, our purpose, our mission, and our vision are in this slide. So we really want to shift the culture of alcohol in Kings and Annapolis counties. And this is part of a provincial initiative. And if you look at the Municipal Alcohol Project page on the website with the Federation, you'll see more about what that means. And our mission is to reduce the harms related to the misuse of alcohol and to create vibrant and successful communities that are free of those harms is our vision. And we did a beautiful graphic, that initial forum that we did that illustrates those harms. And you can see that graphic on our website, and the website URL is a little bit later here. So what do we mean by a culture of alcohol use? So it's those persistent environments where you see alcohol everywhere. Billboards, and you see some pictures there. Those are of Halifax. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to go get us some local pictures. But the top picture there is at the airport. So when you walk into the airport and you're going down to the baggage claim, you see welcome home, and it's beer, right? We're back in Nova Scotia. We have beer and rum. Rum is taking a backseat these days, it seems like. But also when you look down, the rum is down in the second picture. You know, we have this identity with pirates and rum runners, and we build that into our tourism. These are things that begin to speak to cultural use rather than individual use. And we begin to think about alcohol being the norm, that we have alcohol for everything, you know, for weddings, for funerals, when you're happy, when you're sad. And it becomes, you know, much like soda pop. In fact, if you go into the liquor store, you'll see what they call alcopops, which are brightly colored individual serving alcohol drinks that are often geared at a youth mindset. It's one of the highest drinks for underage drinkers. And culture also influences group beliefs, attitudes, social interactions. So our kids learn from us. They learn from seeing alcohol marketing all over the place, and it creates an identity about who we are. So some of the harms that we talk about, health. So there are a number of cancers related to alcohol. It is a class 1 carcinogen determined by the World Health Organization. So it's carcinogenic to humans. Interpersonal violence, relationship problems, falls, injury. We don't have drinking and driving here. That's a huge vector of injury. productivity, absenteeism, etc. You can see the other pieces there. Key piece of our concern is working with youth and really minimizing youth harms, because we know that alcohol strongly impacts brain development, which we see postnatally and right up until the brain fully develops in the early 20s. This slide will show you the hospitalizations entirely caused by alcohol. So there's a lot of hospitalizations that don't get counted here. So if somebody falls and breaks their leg, they're going to emerge. That generally gets counted as a broken leg, not as an alcohol hospitalization. My little graph here is in front of, so can you see the numbers for Nova Scotia has the highest hospitalizations caused direct. So that gives us an indication of a community level harm, that our taxpayer dollars, the burden of healthcare is being impacted by how we use alcohol in our communities. It looks like Alberta there's a couple higher there in Saskatchewan, Alberta and BC. We're at 308 in Nova Scotia. It's pretty high. So I'm going to move our heads again. I don't know if I can see where those are at. So our homepage of our website and annapolisvalleycap.ca. We invite you to go have a look. We have a number of resources and various things there. If you want to contact us, Daisy Dwyer is our chair, and it's info@annapolisvalleycap.ca. And and the last slide there. Thank you very much. We would very much welcome a representative from Kentville to come and join our meetings, and they are the fourth Wednesday of the month, 1:30 to 3:30, currently by Zoom. So that's our presentation. I didn't time myself, so I don't know if I kept to our 10 minutes. I hope I did, but happy to take questions.
You certainly did, Gwyneth. Well done. You could be a role model for others doing presentations. That was 8 minutes and 19 seconds. So if you stop sharing screen, we can see everybody's face and then see if there's any questions for you.
Let's see how I can get, there we go. Stop share. There we go.
And you said your meeting is on the fourth Wednesday of the month. And what time did you say it was at?
1:30 to 3:30, though often on that's been our in-person time. Often in Zoom, we end up by 3. So it's 2 hours is a long time on Zoom.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Are there any questions for Gwyneth? All right, looks like they're going to let you off early tonight.
Daisy, did you ever get yourself unmuted? Can you jump in at all?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Daisy.
Thank you, Gwyneth. It's a good job we had 2 people here, Sandra.
Yes.
Any final comments, Daisy, or are we good to let them go?
No, I think you've done well, Gwyneth. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Right, good night.
So yeah, if you're interested, get in touch with Daisy, and thank you very much for the time.
All right, thank you. Good evening. And our second presentation for this evening is with the Nova Scotia Caregivers Association with Janine Wilson.
Hi, everybody. Let me see. There we go. I'm also going to try and share my screen. Yes, here we go.
And I don't start the clock until you start your presentation.
Thank you.
So no pressure.
Is it shared?
It is.
Okay, great. So yes, I'm Janine Wilson. I'm from Caregivers Nova Scotia, and we're a nonprofit organization that supports family and friend unpaid caregivers. We've been, the organization is about 21, 22 years old now. It's interesting, we still have to work hard to get the word out there for people to find us. And it was started by a group of women around their kitchen table. And they were supporting each other, and just the value of that they felt they really wanted to be able to promote that throughout the province. So we are a provincial organization, and we have support coordinators in each part of the province. And a little later, I'm just going to show you quickly our website, and all contact information and things are there. So this first slide here is just about our mission and our vision. So we really, want to provide support. Education is the biggest things that we're providing. We have support groups, like I have 5 of them in the area. So my personal territory goes from Windsor to Digby. And we really are trying to raise public awareness around caregiver journeys and some of the stresses and ways that people and communities can support caregivers. And we're hoping also that just by carrying the caregiver voice to various places, that we can also help influence public policy. Yes, and our vision, of course, is to get recognition for the caregivers in our communities. So who is a caregiver? So Caregivers Nova Scotia, we have a very broad umbrella. So we're not disease specific. It is generally family and friends. Sometimes it's neighbors who are doing that unpaid work. And that unpaid work can be so many things, from helping people with finances to, getting groceries for them, to doing personal care, to taking to appointments. We have caregivers who are doing caregiving from a distance, who are trying to coordinate. So I'm often talking with, generally it's children, and their parents are living here. So trying to help get services in place and get understandings and things like that. So because we're not disease specific, we may have young caregivers, we may have people who are caring for their children, caring for their parents, caring for their spouse. It could be somebody who's dealing with mental health, who has cancer, who has dementia, so it can be anything. And many caregivers often don't even see themselves or identify as a caregiver. Often they believe it's just, whether it's their sort of duty of the role that they have chosen in life. Often if somebody has gone to long-term care, they stop identifying as a caregiver, even though they're visiting, 4 times a week and being their advocate and all those types of things. So that's one thing we help people understand, is the value of all they do for people. Our language is a caregiver is the person who is doing that for whatever their reasons are for doing that, and that they're not paid. A care provider is somebody who's being paid. So that's just our language that we use. So these are a few things that I thought you would be interested in knowing, that in Canada, 1 in 4 people are caregivers, have been, or are about to be. In Nova Scotia, it's even higher. It's 1 in 3. So 98% of seniors over 65 who are living at home, many say that they would not be able to remain at home if it wasn't for the help of their family and friends. Also, if caregivers save the government a lot of money. So there's a study out there that actually records it at 66 billion, which I believe it's even increased since then. So these are some of the things that caregivers have said about their own role. They're happy to do it. They feel that, it comes with responsibilities of, for their family members and their friends, but that they often lacked confidence, especially in doing things that they have never been trained for, whether it's personal care or just trying to deal and understand how to best approach somebody with dementia, or a child with autism, so things that they haven't never been trained for. And so that can be intimidating. And then the challenges ahead is the thing that is also very stressful. They wonder, what is next? So that the caregivers are really hoping that they could get more skills and knowledge and support. So Caregivers Nova Scotia is one of few provincially funded caregiving organizations. Ontario, theirs is the newest. So these are the 4 provinces that have, we're hoping that's going to change. We're hoping that there's going to be a national effort and that there will be one in every province and territory in Canada. One of our main functions is the peer support groups. So everybody who works at Caregivers Nova Scotia has been or still is a caregiver. We have our own stories, which helps us understand other people's stories, even though people are coming from different walks and dealing with different situations. Many of the challenges are the same, of burnout, of trying to get more information, of trying to navigate what's out there. And that's what we're trying to help people with. So we do all of our work. So I work out of my home, and we have our head office is in Halifax. So all our support coordinators that are outside of HRM work from their homes, and we support people through computer, but mostly through the phone. So we often, we work with a lot of partners. So I'm very grateful for all the partners I get to work with. And so the support groups are just a really beautiful thing. It's really incredible. And I feel really honored to witness people coming together and really supporting each other. And I call them offerings. So people just share their offerings, knowing that it might, what works in one family won't necessarily work in another family. But people learn so much from each other. So from, people are different parts of the journey, new members are coming, things like that. So and the most common thing I hear after somebody has attended a support group for the first time is, I don't feel alone anymore. And it's really great to be able to talk to people where you don't have to explain a gazillion things. They get it from the get-go. So that's, so we do have the occasional guest speaker, but mostly we are there just supporting each other and trying to really keep the focus on the caregiver and what might be out there that could lighten their load, take something off their plate, and how people really encourage each other in their self-care and ways to try to promote that. We also give free work, so all our programs and services are free. We also give workshops. I did one in December for the caregiver stress management, which is the 3 that are most given is the advanced care planning, safe medicines, and the caregiver stress management. So here it is COVID time, and it was December, it was the second week of December, and the workshop filled. So it's really needed. People are really looking for supports and wanting to remain healthy while they are doing this journey. So how can you help? You could just let people know that we're out there, passing on our information. I'll show you our website because there's a couple things I'd like to point out there. But mainly it's just helping caregivers know that we are out there so that they can contact us and we might be able to help them make their journey a little bit more doable, I guess, for lack of better words. So I'm just gonna stop sharing that. And I'd like to just share our website here for a moment. Uh-oh, I don't know what's happening. Oh, there we go. There we go, share screen. So this is our website. This is our landing page that you come on. If you go here, it will always bring you back to this landing page. And so in this landing page is Where to Begin guide, which is a guide that I love because it's very simple, and it just basically goes through and shows a whole bunch of different tasks and things that are getting done. And it's, so what is your loved one doing for themselves? What am I doing for them? What is a paid person doing for them? You can print that off if that may be helpful to people. It can really help them realize that, oh, my person still does a lot for themselves. That's great. Or, wow, I'm doing so much more than I really realized I was doing. But it can also help in planning that if this changes, that's not a task I want to do. So who can I find and how can I hire people to help me with this? So that's one of the things. Our Caregiver Handbook is very, very helpful for people. There's many topics in there, from personal directives to law to medication tips to all kinds of things. And this can also be accessed through the website, but if anybody contacts me that's a caregiver, I will mail one out to them as well. And this is something that people say they go back to numerous times for, depending on what their needs are at the time. And then our support groups, our workshops. So in the support groups, you'll get a listing of where all the support groups are. I do hold one right now in Kentville. It's actually what I call our new minus support group because we had a free space that we were using there, but because of COVID, the space was unable to open up to outside groups. But I was very fortunate in being able to get a donation. And so we have been renting the Kentville Recreation. So that's on the second Thursday of each month that support group happens in Kentville, and it's from 2 to 4. So there's also the government program. So in Nova Scotia, we're very fortunate that there are 2 sort of financial programs through that can be helpful. One is the Caregiver Benefit, which is income tested and taxable. And then one is the Supportive Care Program, which is designed specifically for people with memory issues. And who may not be able to make their own decisions any longer. And that is specifically, it's not income tested, it's not taxable, and it's specifically to hire private care. Then it also on that government page is also, disability services and, so there's all our government programs that can help people remain at home and have a good, the best possible life they can. Transition in adult care is a huge section, which is basically if people are caring for somebody at home, and we have a section in there called, living safely at home. So it can tell you all about home care, how to access community, continuing care. We have things in there about adult day programs, tips and tricks and things like that. The palliative end of care life is the newest to our website, and it's also really helpful, and it really is broken down into stages. So the same with the transition in adult care, there's one part that says, is it time for a move? So it helps you think through, is it time for a move? Do I need to start looking at alternative living places for my loved one, and what are my options, private and public, and wait times, and so on and so forth. The other thing that I'd like to show you is that there is the referrals right on our main page there. It's very short. And this is all it is. So if for some reason somebody wanted to self-refer, they could use this, or they can just call me. But if you were, for whatever reason, talking with somebody and you wanted to help them make that step, and they said, sure, yeah, sign me up for that, it just makes one less phone call for them, which, reaching for help can be very challenging for many of us, especially on this International Women's Day, where I think that is a big one for women often. So that is there for people to be able to refer. So this is also great for if somebody was sitting in a doctor's office and the doctor knew about us and they wanted the person to have more support, and the person was in agreement, they could do the form together right there and it's done. And then that gives me permission to call them. So back to any of our pages, at the bottom of every page is all our contact information for all parts of the province. You can subscribe to our newsletter, which is only twice a year. However, it also, you can choose the areas that you would like to know when events are happening. So any workshop that was happening in your area, you would get an email to say this is happening, so that you would be in the know of it. If you forgot everything I said today and wanted to share with somebody that what Caregivers Nova Scotia is all about, you can just hit the YouTube. There's a short video there that tells you about all our programs and services. And our, Facebook, you can follow us on Facebook and all that kind of jazz. And that's it for me.
All right, Janine, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Janine? Did a great job. No questions. Thank you very much. And we'll have this information posted on our website or through our social media formats. So again, thank you very much, Janine.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, the directors have provided their reports for your review and are present if there are any questions. CAO Trope, could you please introduce our department reports?
Okay, so tonight we have our financial group, and so we have our director, we have Deborah walking through her various reports this evening.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. It's hard to believe that we're in the month of February. We're 11/12 through this fiscal year. Oh my gosh, here we are.
March.
It's just disappeared. I'm reporting the finance report for the month ended February the 28th, 2021. The benchmark would be 91.7% if everything was averaged evenly over the year. I'm not going to go into great detail. I hope you've had a chance to read the report, but I will cite that revenue is over the benchmark at 94.9% recorded at the end of February. Many revenue streams are reporting at 100%. We still have a few things left to be recorded. On the expenditure side of the ledger, we're a little bit under the benchmark at 90.9% recorded. We also have many segments in the expenditure side that are 100% recorded, but there are still some things such as remuneration and that type of thing that needs to be paid for the month of March. As far as taxes go, we're showing basically the prepayment of 21-22 taxation. We're reporting at 100.5% recorded or received. And this happens every year. Many businesses prepay their taxes for the prior year or start to prepay. There's a lot of people on a budget plan or some such thing that they pay continually once a month or once a week or whatever to keep their taxes up to date. So that's good news for us. Gives us money to generate. So taxation is reporting basically at $52,660 credit, which is compares to last year's figure of $46,664 in a credit balance. We have investments reporting as at January 31st, 2021. I'll just report on the cost at the end of January was 13.6 million, and the market value was 14.1 million at the end of January. The capital acquisition program has been continuing. On the date that this was written, we had $1.3 million in capital recorded, and that's about 62.9% of the budget. You can see all the details related to the specific projects in the schedules that follow at the end of my report on the month of February. And that's my report for February.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director on this report? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Director Kroll, when should we expect to see the draft budget?
I'm working on the draft budgets as we speak, at least for the town of Kentville operating fund. That's the one that's being most heavily worked on at this point in time. Hopefully we'll have something in very early April at the very latest.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Deb, just a question under conditional transfers. And I think I asked on this one before, I'll just round it up to 190,000 under the Safe Restart funds to help offset the revenue loss.
Yes.
I know that we probably are not in receipt of that yet, but when we are in receipt of it, do we have a sense of how that will be distributed?
We have received the money. The money has been given to us. It's in our bank. It's been placed in the bank. We have a number of revenue streams that have fallen short this year, as well as tens of thousands of dollars that we have expended related to COVID expenditures, masks, disinfection, that type of thing. So I think once we add all those pieces up, that we will have basically consumed most of the $189,000 that we received. If there is any residual that's left over related to that, then it is placed in reserve and it will be used for COVID protocols and whatnot in the 21-22 year.
Because it's pretty specific as to what it has to be used for, right?
It has to be it has to be for a loss of revenue related to COVID or to PPE and disinfection, the disinfection side. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for the director? All right, Director, you're on to the next one.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be talking for a few minutes about the 6th projection report, and this is a projection report as at the end of February, projected to the end of March. I've got a swing here. We've moved from a deficit position to a slight surplus position, which is a good position to be in, essentially a break even. I'm reporting a surplus position of around $8,600. It's come from a couple of places, and on the revenue side of the ledger, sales have been increased by about $11,400 related to the street sweeper being rented out to an outside entity. That gave us an extra $9,300 that was totally unexpected. Own source revenue is up $14,200. Mainly due to miscellaneous revenues related to Kentville Police Service, which they did some billing for the Department of Justice. General Administration recorded the administration fee related to Mentoring Plus, and the Rec Department had a sale of some surplus equipment that was unexpected. So all those were unexpected revenues, but it gave us around $14,300 extra dollars that we hadn't anticipated. On the expenditure side of the ledger, we had a reduction in our expenditures from last month. The largest reduction is related to the Protection Fire Services. It's the overfunding related to Kentville Volunteer Fire Department, the Camp Aldershot overpayment that we made. We made payments for the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department, which has been since reimbursed by the federal government, and it amounted to $18,900 over a period of about 5 years. So that has been taken into our expenditure side to offset the amount that we paid to the fire department this year. Also, the County of Kings received part of that overpayment as well, because they share about 70% of the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department costs. So that was where the amounts came from. So at the end of the day, we are looking at a surplus projected at the end of March of around $8,600, and that's as at the date this was written. For your information, the snow removal budget is reporting at 54% expended today, which gives us about $136,236 as of today, between now and the end of March. So I hope to God it doesn't snow that much, but I'm not going to say anything. Don't blame me if it does. Anyway, that's my report on the projections.
Thank you very much, Director. Are there any questions on this report? And I just bought new winter running shoes, so it's not going to snow.
Like that.
All right, moving on, you have some resolutions for us.
I do indeed. Thank you very much. I have the withdrawal number 2 from the town capital reserve related to capital acquisitions. We have some more capital acquisitions that require funding. I have drawn already, and this was approved at the last meeting, last council meeting, $207,000, but this ask for draw 2 is $131,723, and it amounts to $88,131.67 of projects that were budgeted and some projects that were added necessarily when we got delving into Prospect Avenue work. We actually had to expend $43,591 to do some paving on Prospect Ave, as well as storm sewer on Prospect Ave. So the ask is $131,723.01. The budget for from reserves for the year 2021 was $592,600, and adding these two pieces together, the $207,000 that we've already drawn and this $131,000 still takes us below the amount that we had budgeted to draw. It amounts to $339,119.17. So my recommendation reads that I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that the attached resolution be approved for withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation. And this will finance several capital acquisitions for the year. And after this approval, I ask it be placed on the next docket of Town Council for ratification.
All right, thank you very much, Director. So we have a recommendation. If it became a motion, it would go something like this. Council Advisory Committee recommends approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $131,723.01 sorry about that, from town's capital general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the year of 2020-2021 at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. And the seconder?
Second.
Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the town's capital general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the year 2020-2021 at the March 29, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Director Kroll, the under town hall renovations added, what is the 30,000? What did that consist of?
$30,000 to is the beginning of the renovations in the downstairs of the town office. It's not the complete amount. It's part of a progress estimate that has arrived.
Oh, okay. So how much are the renovations going to be total?
Well, if you just give me a second, I just got this today. We just got the final bill in the last couple of days, and it was given to me this afternoon. So let me see, town hall renovations, downstairs renovations. Okay, so we're looking at the total left to be funded, and you'll see resolutions coming to you in the month of April to make other withdrawals from reserve in order to finalize the remaining progress estimates that we received actually today from engineering. We have the total amount will be $89,633.52.
And that's the total of all the renovations we did. That's
the
pretty
total
good.
of the downstairs, the renovations in the town hall. It does not include
Okay.
design work, which was separate.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this matter? There's no further discussion. Are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the town's capital general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the year 2020-2021 at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
Yes.
And I say yes, the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to your next resolution, please.
Thank you very much. This is a withdrawal from withdrawal number 2 from the Town of Kentville Equipment Reserve. There was the need to do a major overhaul to one of our plow trucks. It was totally unexpected. It's going to add to the useful life of the truck. So therefore, it's been capitalized. The amount that was expended on this major overhaul is $22,885.60. As well, the amount that was allotted for the two pickups that were purchased in 2021 overran the budget that was given from reserves by $4,352.91. So, and all in all, I'm asking for withdrawal for request number 2, $27,238.51 to finalize these acquisitions related to transportation equipment. So my recommendation reads that I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that the attached resolution be approved for withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the Town of Kentville Capital Equipment Reserve to partially fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions. And I request that this be placed to the next meeting of Town Council for ratification.
Thank you for that recommendation, and a motion coming to Council Advisory Committee recommends the approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the town's capital equipment reserve to partially fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions at the March 29, 2021 meeting. A motion, please, if someone would move that. Deputy Mayor, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommend approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the town's capital equipment reserve fund to partially fund the 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions at the March 29, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of the withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the town's capital equipment reserve to partially fund the 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisition at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard? Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
yes,
And I say yes, the motion is carried. Thank you. Right back to you, Director.
Thank you very much. This is a request for a blanket resolution in case the Town of Kentville is facing an operating deficit at the end of March 2021. We can't guarantee the financial position of the town until early to mid-May of 2021. If the town was in a deficit position after the completion of the year-end process, this deficit figure must be the first line item in our 21-22 Town of Kentville operating budget, as municipalities are not permitted to carry deficit positions. An operating deficit position will also negatively affect the town's financial condition index for the 2021 year. The town can eliminate a potential year-end deficit by the passage of a blanket resolution which permits the transfer of funds from the Town of Kentville operating reserve to offset any shortfall. The Town of Kentville operating reserve contains $519,260 as at March 1st, 2021. So my recommendation reads that I recommend to Council Advisory Committee to approve a blanket resolution for a possible withdrawal from the Town of Kentville operating reserve in the amount of a current operating deficit should one occur at March 31st, 2021, after all year-end transactions are quantified. These funds would be transacted only if the town was facing a current operating deficit end of year.
Thank you, Director, for that recommendation, and a motion. The Council Advisory Committee recommends approval to Town Council of a blanket resolution for withdrawal from the town's operating reserve to cover a current operating deficit should one occur at March 31st, 2021, after all year-end transactions are quantified at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Someone could move that, please? Councillor York, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Huntley. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of a blanket resolution for withdrawal from the town's operating reserve to cover a current operating deficit should one occur at the March 31st, 2021, after all year-end transactions are quantified at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? With no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of a blanket resolution for withdrawal from the town's operating reserve to cover a current operating deficit should one occur at March 31st, 2021, after all year-end transactions are quantified at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
yes,
And I say yes, the motion is carried. Back to you, Director.
Thank you very much. I'm bringing a request for a resolution, a guarantee resolution from Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority. They have a balloon payment that is due May 2021 for debenture 36-A-1. They need partner approvals in place to participate in the spring debenture issue. So I've attached the guarantee resolution for Kentville in the amount of $46,504. This is a 10.05%, which requires council's authorization. Once it's authorized, 2 originals must be returned to Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority for them to complete the required paperwork. I also attached for your information the temporary borrowing resolution to refinance the entire balloon payment. So my recommendation reads that I recommend to Council Advisory Committee that it authorize the attached guarantee resolution, which denotes the town's percentage share of the refinancing of debenture 36-A-1. I ask this matter is placed on the next docket of Town Council, and that once ratified, 2 copies signed, dated, and sealed are sent to Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority for it to complete the necessary paperwork. And it's a guaranteed resolution for the purpose of Valley Region Solid Waste, and the guarantee amount for Kentville, $46,504.
Thank you very much for the recommendation, Director. And the motion to Council Advisory Committee recommends approval to Town Council of the attached guarantee resolution for debenture 36-A-1 in the amount of $46,504, the Town of Kentville's 10.05% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of the attached guarantee resolution for debenture 36-A-1 in the amount of $46,504, the Town of Kentville's 10.05% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? With no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval to Town Council of the attached guarantee resolution for debenture 36-A-1 in the amount of $46,504, the Town of Kentville's 10.05% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership at the March 29, 2021 meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
yes,
And I say yes, the motion is carried. All right, Director, one more.
One more. Phew. I was asked to make some inquiries of other municipal units about the PACE program, whether they're using it or not. Only 6 municipalities replied to me. I've got the comments that I've received in point form in the report that was attached. It's a mixed bag of pretty well everything. Some people are happy with it, some people aren't happy with it. A lot are using their own reserve funds to fund the program. And there are a couple of municipalities that are at the very beginning of the whole process. So I offer that as information that I was asked to provide, and I don't have a lot that I can speak to on these other municipalities, but certainly that is the information that I was given.
Thank you very much, Director. You will recall that we requested of the CAO to provide us with some follow-up information at our February CAC, and this information has been provided to you. Are there any further questions for the CAO on this matter? None? All right, then we're moving on. So we are now going on to planning and development. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's
Councillor.
okay. I actually have a question. Thank you, Your Worship, for Director Cole. Just wondering, the 89,000 for the town hall renovations, does that include the design fee, or is that's separate?
The design fee is a separate fee, yes.
Okay. And has there been any update about if you were able to find out if any funding would be available? I know the last time you mentioned you were going to try to talk and see if any of it would be possibly covered.
I think that would be a decision that we would make internally. I believe that the only thing that we would even look at is being related to COVID protection would be the glass partitions.
Right.
At the end of the day, that could also be argued that that's a safety issue. So it's a judgment call on our part. So anyway,
It's just the only reason I ask is because the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 months, we were kind of led to believe that there was funding coming from that. And then we kind of, at the last meeting, we kind of got dropped that there was no funding or it wasn't going to be possible.
I only heard of the funding that we received related to COVID to cover PPE and lost revenue, that type of thing. We did an analysis back months ago about lost revenue and that type of thing. But specifically related to renovations or whatever, I know that there are other municipalities that have made comment on the fact that they did do some renovations, and would those renovations be eligible for use of the monies that were received. But there is no other money coming that I know of related to COVID from the provincial government, other than what we've already received, provincial and federal government, other than what we've received. It will be a judgment call. We have lost revenue. I think most of it will be used up in lost revenue. I don't think that we'll be transferring much, if anything, to capital related to the plexiglass or the glass partitions that we have here in front of our customer service reps.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Director. Director Gentleman, it's your turn.
Thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor Snow. For the month of February, we issued 8 development permits for a building valuation of just over $1.2 million. And that has brought us to a year total. Again, this is a calendar year of $4.4 million. In terms of some of the developments that are happening within Kentville, things are moving along nicely. Ryan's Park are hoping to break ground next month. Crystal's house is progressing well, as is Miners Landing. The River Street lands. I got an email today from the prospective buyers, and they are hoping that they will start one of their proposed 3 buildings this year. This is based on their geotechnical report that they've done and the samplings of the bores that they're waiting to hear back on, but they're feeling very confident about the site, and hopefully we'll see something happening on that site this year. They have their due diligence is due at the end of this month, with the closing date at the end of April. Stone Mount Retirement Home, we haven't heard anything back from them with regards to submitting a new application. It was my understanding that they were going to contact CAO Troke last week, but that has not come to fruition yet. So we're not quite sure what's happening with that. And we'll just continue to wait for something to proceed with that. Getting closer with McDougall Heights to have that subdivision plan approved. It's just some back and forth with some paperwork that we're trying to get from the property owners in terms of deeds and some other things for final plan of subdivision. We have a chocolate factory, as everybody's heard, moving into the Culkin building, which is pretty exciting. The planning posse had an opportunity to be invited down, planning posse, the planning department. Had an opportunity to take a tour through their facility, and we're treated to some of their delicious chocolate. So we're quite excited about what's happening in that area. The business park, there's been a lot of inquiries about that. There'll be some discussion later on in council with regards to some proposals in that area. And the LUB and the MPS, some house cleaning amendments. That's essentially what I termed them. But it's been just over 2 years since council adopted the MPS and LUB. And since working with the document and as permits and things have come across our desk, we've noticed that there have been some items that really need to be rejigged, some items that have been left out by mistake, and some other things. So I'm putting together some proposed amendments. The CAO and I are going to get together, I think next week or the week after that, to go through them and come out with a report and suggest a special council meeting so we can sit down and just have a full conversation about what some of these changes are, what they mean, rather than having it before a regular scheduled council, a CAC meeting. It may feel a little too rushed if we do something like that. So we're looking at sometime at the end of March to come forward and establishing a special CAC meeting with you folks, if that's okay with you guys. And just day-to-day business.
All right, thank you very much. And we do have some questions here. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Bev, the River Street lands, and I'm just trying to go by memory here. Is that multi-unit res?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions?
I'm sorry, but that's what we've been in some conversations with. We haven't seen it as specific proposal from them, but that was essentially what they were looking at. There has been some discussion that there may be some commercial development on the ground floor, but we don't know yet for sure, but it's not a requirement on that lot.
I was just going to say it's not. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. So you did hear the director speak about some work going on with regards to LUB and MPS. So in discussions with the CAO, we're looking at the last week of March. So we will have a council meeting on the Monday, the 29th, and then perhaps either a couple days ahead of that or perhaps a couple days after it, we would have a special meeting to discuss these changes, to give us some time to look at them and have good fulsome discussion before we push it to council for approval. So just keep that on your calendar. Were there any other questions for the director on any of the matters in the report? You also have the report from the Community Economic Development. Were there any questions on that report? If none, we're moving on. So we're on to Parks and Recreation. Director Bedingfield, please.
Good evening, Council.
There you are.
Just quickly under facility, I wanted to just mention that we've partnered with Halifax Nordic Ski Club. We're quite excited about them. They do have a Nova Scotia Centre name, but they're actually a provincial organization returning there, along with Cross Country Ski Nova Scotia. And that is in partnership to help us groom the trails up to the standard that a lot of our local residents are requesting because they're avid cross country skiers. We're quite excited about that. Yeah, so we've just started that relationship, entered into that relationship. So next year, we'll be good to go. Under programs, our equipment loan program, I can't stress how popular this program has been. It's been really great. And thanks to some leftover grant funding, we've been able to increase our capacity a little bit. So we've ordered some new snowshoes. And probably what's really exciting is that our active living community coordinator has been working also with Cross Country Ski Nova Scotia to receive some grant monies to purchase our own fleet of cross country skis again for next year. Next year is going to be great, and it'll be the year where there's no snow because we're really prepared for it. But in the meantime, we're quite excited about it, making sure that we have everything that we need in order for people to have fun. And then the last piece in there I really wanted to get out was that within that grant that she's applied for, we'll be purchasing a sit ski to make sure that all folks, regardless of ability, have the ability to access their winter. Another point under program I wanted to bring up, and it's in my report, just around the idea of inclusive language. So we've been really purposeful in the language that we use when we advertise our programs and events, specifically the boys and girls programs that we offer, but adding the terminology around non-binary youth. And we received feedback from some community experts on this, and this one little addition has seemed to received a lot of support. So we're excited to keep learning and keep growing as a department and ensure that everything that we do is more inclusive. Under capital, our rec center is, we're almost nearing that project for this year. And if you go in, you'll also see a fresh coat of paint. We've put in heat pumps and some curtains and changed the lights out to LED and a bunch of things. So we're excited for users to see it and see the upgrades. The dog park, our planning department has been really helpful in working with the Department of Agriculture, and I will continue to keep you posted on that file as we move forward. Community events, I'm hoping everyone got out to the Fire and Ice Festival. This is again another example of a great partnership between our department, Economic Development and Planning, and KBC. It was very well attended. Their restrictions were lifted just long enough for us to be able to do some really fun things in the community. From what we heard, really enjoyed it and appreciated the effort. You can see my list of meetings and events there. Under council related, I just wanted to let everybody know that the completed ICIP grant, which is that one to support the active transportation grant, that has been submitted for federal review. So that's exciting. I actually just received an email. They have a few questions, but that means that it's being processed right now. So we're quite excited about that. And then lastly, the accessibility plan is now complete. I have it in my hot little hands. I'm going to send it off to the accessibility committee, and they will hopefully bring it forward to council. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for the director, deputy mayor, please?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Rachel, for the report. Just a quick question. I know that I think it was Councillor Maxwell that had brought it up, maybe some other councillors as well, about the bridge being very dark, you know, not lit at all. And I think there was something in your accessibility report that was potentially going to see if lighting there qualified.
Yeah, so Director Bell might be able to speak to this a bit better than I can. Certainly it came up as an issue with regards to accessibility for sure. I think that's been identified a number of times.
Right.
I'm still understanding that we're not permitted to put lighting on the bridge, but yes, you're right. We were going to see if we could find the ability and funding to put lighting on either end of the bridge. So he and I will continue to explore that. I haven't found any funding as of yet, but yeah, we'll keep looking, because I do know it's a priority and an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything further for the director? All right, then moving right along to Chief of Police.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to make a comment on International Women's Day, how great the town of Kentville is in regards to women, and that about 2/3 of the people on this call are actually women. So well done to the town of Kentville. I'm actually going to just say that my report is a lot of numbers and meetings, and just, I guess, ask you if you have any questions for anything that you've seen on there, rather than me go through those, because you have a lot of an agenda left.
Are there any questions for the chief? All good, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along to Engineering and Public Works, Director Bell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. I'll start with just an update, I guess, a brief summary of my report, an update on our EV charging stations as a follow-up to the council initiative to install more EV charging stations around town. We have applied for funding for 3 charging stations through Natural Resources Canada and the Clean Nova Scotia Foundation. Approximately 100 stations were requested across the province, and results will be made public later this month. Under Public Works, as Director Kroll mentioned, excluding last week, we have spent approximately 50% of our 2021 budget for snow and ice removal, and she also updated that to 54% as of last week. So bring on spring. Under Kentville Water Commission, our business park water supply, which is basically Park Street and the park, supplied by the Mitchell Avenue Water Treatment Plant, has it's assumed to be a restriction in the exterior piping. The ongoing winter works and recent cold weather has delayed the excavation of this area by our Public Works crew, but supply to customers in the business park and along West Park Street haven't been affected other than a slight reduction in water pressure. As a further update, we've excavated the area just today and booked a local potable water video company to camera the pipeline on Wednesday. So we should find the source of the problem. We believe it's a buildup of one of the chemicals that's been used for decades at that plant to treat the water, and it does sort of eventually build up in the pipe. And we think that's what's causing the restriction, but we'll know better on Wednesday when it's videoed. And we have both the Kentville Water Commission and a Source Water Protection meeting scheduled for March 24th. Under sanitary sewer utility, everything in the utility is working as predicted or expected. We have had a few sewer laterals identified in the last month that are on the sort of the town side of the street limit, so they will require a replacement in the coming months once the weather improves and we can start digging streets. But we have a few of those identified. I do have a recommendation to council, but I'll go to that after there's any questions on my report.
All right, are there any questions for the director? None? All right then.
I'll switch over to the recommendation here. It's regarding the 2021-22 regional sewer operating budget. The regional sewer system is owned and operated by the municipality of Kings, and Kentville is an approximate 50% user in this system, including the transmission, which is pumping and treatment to the town of the town's wastewater to the regional wastewater treatment plant in New Minas. The Regional Sewer Committee met on February the 19th, 2021 to review the proposed operating and capital budgets prepared by Kings County staff. The proposed 21-22 operating budget for the regional sewer system is $1,603,300, of which $804,800, or roughly 50%, is proportioned to the town of Kentville based on our percentage of overall use. This is a $47,700, or roughly 6% increase from our portion of the 2020-21 last year's operating budget. This increase is attributed primarily to increases in power costs at the treatment plant and repayment of capital debentures. The budget implication, the town of Kentville is invoiced quarterly by the municipality of Kings for our use of the regional sewer system, and we build these charges into our own sanitary sewer operating budget. This $47,700 increase has the potential to impact our area sewer service rate in the near future once all of our operation costs are input into our sewer rate model. So I do have a recommendation. If you're ready for that, or you want me to read that, Sandra?
Sure.
Mayor Snow? Recommendation is that CAC recommends to council to approve the town of Kentville's portion of the proposed 2021-22 regional sewer system operating budget in the amount of $804,800 at the March council meeting so that our regional sewer committee members can report back to the committee at their April 15th, 2021 meeting.
All right, so we have a recommendation, and from that, a motion to CAC, that CAC recommends to council the approval of the Kentville share of the regional sewer operating budget of $804,800 for the 2021-2022 year. And this be approved at the 29th of March meeting. If I could have that moved, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And I got you, Councillor Gerard, as the second. So it has been moved and seconded that CAC recommends to council the approval of the Kentville share of the regional sewer operating budget of $804,800 to the March 29th council meeting. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll ask this of CAO Troke, and I think you know how I feel about this. Not that I would hold up passing the sewer budget, but I've got a real problem year after year. We're passing big chunks of budget without even seeing what our budget's going to look like. So we don't know if we need to say, look, Dave, you've got to trim $10,000 off this budget. And like I said, I wouldn't hold this up tonight, and I wouldn't vote against it tonight. But I have a real problem with, we just promise money to Valley Waste. Now, I assume this is an ongoing thing with Valley Waste that we're on the hook for anyways. But we're promising a little bit here and a little bit there. Tonight, it's a big chunk, $800,000. And we have no idea what our budget's going to look like for 21-22. So I'll maybe it's just a comment and you don't need to comment back, but this is just an issue that maybe I'm the only one that has it. Thank you.
CAO?
Yes, and thank you for that, Councillor. And so I would concur. I think it's a good process to have all of your intermunicipal service agreements and your budget conversation all comprehensively. I think what's happened here is we kind of have a bit of a legacy where a lot of groups are holding their external board meetings at different times, and they're looking for information back from the municipal units. And I appreciate that's historical. Items like the debenture with Valley Waste, those are things that on the debt side have been committed to for a substantive period of time. And so it's more, I'll call it just more of a formality. I hate to say that, but those debentures are required because those balloon payments got entered into, 5-10 years ago. But with regards to all the other IMSA pieces, I would agree that I think the appropriate process would be for council to see all of those different budget items at one time, see the operational, see the capital, and then understand what those impacts would be before kind of in dribs and drabs moving on with them. So part of what we're obviously going to be doing is over the next year, looking to move the budget process forward a bit, meaning back farther into the current year, which then gives us the opportunity to look at all of these things in a comprehensive way.
Thank you. Sorry, Dave.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'll just make a comment around that. And I think with regional sewer, sorry, I'm trying to let my hand go down. Anyway, I think with regional sewer, you've got a few partners at the table. You've got New Minas and Kings County and PepsiCo, and then we all have to make a decision around it, our respective councils. Then it has to go back to regional sewer committee, and then it has to go to the Kings County Council. So sometimes it's hard to line all those different partners up all at the same time so that we're all making the recommendation and the decision all within the same time. And I think to the County Kings budget process, this is a large line item on their budget. So they'd like to see it kind of come around the April mark. So that's just a little bit of background. I don't know if that helps or not, but to CAO Troke's point, I think, having some of these things starting earlier also makes sense as well. Just a comment.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Maxwell. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember, but wasn't there some discussion on intermunicipal service agreements and CAOs looking at bringing those up to date, more up to date, and so on, like bringing them forward as a group? Didn't we have some discussion on that with previous CAO?
CAO, please.
Yes, and Councillor Maxwell, you're absolutely right. And so what's happened is we've had a few conversations between the CAOs. We haven't gotten everybody always together at the same time, but the intent is that we're going to do a quick legal review on one or two to get started, look at what is in each one of the IMSAs, and then as a group collectively come back with that information to our councils. So I think a number of shuffling of the deck chairs has slowed that down, but we are looking to pick up that and move forward. Likely be in April, just with everybody trying to get through the budget processes, but it is the intent to take one or two at a time, go through them, and then move on to the next three or four and work our way through them.
Okay, that would help with this type of process, would it not? Would,
Absolutely.
Addressing Councillor Gerard's concerns, that process?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I have a question for Director Bell with regards to the sewer. So there's four partners, and we hold 50% share. So which means the other three partners hold the other 50%. So I would say that that we have the biggest stake in this game. And when we're looking at it, increases in power costs of 6%. I know that Nova Scotia Power didn't go up by 6% in this fiscal. So I'm going to say, do we have any direct effect on how maintenance is performed there to make this more efficient?
No direct effect. I mean, they do run the facility. CAO Troke and I were out for a visit here about a month and a half ago, I guess now, or early February, cold, blustery day. But their power costs or power use has been up the last year. They attribute a lot of that to the capital upgrades that they've been doing, which has been aeration upgrades, which is substantially stirred up, we'll say, the ponds. They've had a few of it's a 5-cell lagoon, so they've had a few of the cells down while the work was going on. Means they've had to use more air and therefore more power during that time, and that has it peaked it in last year's, this current fiscal year. Really they've projected a slight deficit this year, or an overage really of power usage, and therefore they've built it into the coming year sort of as a safeguarding in case they go over again another year. It's capital upgrades are going to happen again this year. There's more aeration upgrades and desludging of the ponds, which that's why they feel power will continue to be used at a higher rate. So you're right, the NS power rates haven't increased that amount, but their actual consumption has. So it's something that should go back down. It is a more efficient aeration system, and so the long run we should see improved power, less power used, but in the short term, it's an increased power consumption.
So there is, I'm going to say, light on the horizon as far as we are going to get more efficiency out of it. I mean, there's so much talk about turning sunshine into power or turning wind into power. Maybe it's time to start turning poop into power. And I'm just going to put it out there that.
Absolutely, yeah. But it may be through such things as a solar farm out near the lagoons. They may have to acquire a little more land around it, but it's an excellent area to consider a solar farm to offset the power costs, things like that. I don't think you can't generate. I don't think there's enough. There's certainly not the methane or the generation from a plant like that, but as opposed to a more mechanical plant that you can cover and turn into a bit of a biodome. But this covers an open celled lagoon which covers multiple acres. But certainly the potential for sun power is certainly there to help.
Okay, thank you,
You're
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry for the last, but it's actually not a bad idea. One of the things I was going to mention, and Director Bell may have mentioned this before, but within the Regional Sewer Committee, there is a standing technical committee that Director Bell is on. And so every meeting that we have, the technical committee does a report for us. And it's really, really helpful because that's the very technical side of the regional sewer that a lay person like myself really wouldn't understand. So it's good that we have that portion of the Regional Sewer Committee to let us know kind of how things are working and talking about the aeration system and the desludging that's upcoming in the next, I think it's 2 to 3 years, that really should improve the efficiencies and namely the power usage. So I just want to make that comment as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
I just had one question.
Go ahead, Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Mayor. Have we always been at 50% on that operating budget? Have we ever been lower than that, or?
I don't know maybe Director Kroll knows for sure, Councillor Huntley, but I know we're in around that the last few years. We're up actually maybe as high as 53% by times. It does vary. Kentville, our hydraulic use is less than 50, but our strength is higher then, so it averages out around 50, and they base it on those two things, flow and strength of sewage. And we do have more industrial load than I guess New Minas says perhaps more commercial load, but we have some other industries that up the strengths of our wastewater. So we're trying to sort of hopefully clean that up and find out why our strength is higher than it should be, which could lower our percentage or our share of the cost. Yeah, it's a good question.
It has been 50% for many, many years, very close to 50% for many, many years. Yeah, this is not new, not recent.
Thank you, Deborah.
Is there any further questions or discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is for CAC to recommend to Council the approval of the Kentville share of the regional sewer operating budget in the amount of $804,800 to the March 29th Council meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Gerard?
Yes.
Councillor Huntley?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Councillor York?
Yes.
Councillor Zabian?
Yes.
And I say yes, and that motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, CAO, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Just going to touch on a few things. Wanted to, as a follow-up from a previous presentation, I've had an opportunity to have both conversation and a number of documents from KBC regarding their budget request for this year. So this is an additional support and some clarification that will help us as we work through our budget process, and so is going to aid with the discussion with council on this. So just a follow-up from that presentation and the requests for various pieces of information. So an excellent job there. The King CAOs have had a meeting to discuss a draft RFP for a feasibility study with regards to a multi-purpose recreation facility. This will be brought forward to council likely in April But I just wanted to, I know there's been some conversation out there around this subject. So a draft RFP is being worked on between the CAOs collaboratively, and we'll be bringing that forward for council for consideration. And there's been a number of comments on the other pieces in my report, but also wanted to let council know that I've had an opportunity to both virtually and in some cases in person meet with a number of groups and a number of individuals, both as Nova Scotia representatives of various organizations, but also the local organizations as well. So to council, if there is any groups or organizations that you would recommend me reaching out to as I'm getting situated here in my position, please feel free to forward them. I know many of the groups have reached out after they've had conversations with council, so I appreciate that. So that's my quick report for this evening.
Are there any questions for the CEO? No questions? All right then. We would take a motion to accept the staff reports as presented, please. Councillor York, thank you. Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that staff reports be accepted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Staff, thank you very much for your time this evening. All right, we're moving on. We have no business arising from our minutes or old business. And we have one piece of correspondence. CAO, if you could take that one, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Snow. We received a piece of correspondence on March 5th from Margaret Polbachek. And basically, we'll be circulating this document, but this is a concern around public health and safety. There is a desire to be increasing public awareness, particularly around sidewalks and roads and motor vehicles. So this document was received and we'll be circulating that to council.
Thank you very much, CAO. All right, we're moving on now to our new business, and I got a box in the mail today, and there's a letter attached to it. So if you'll just give me a minute to read the letter. So I am delighted to send the enclosed community spirit plaque to the town of Kentville. As you are all aware, during 2020, this province experienced great turmoil when we were all impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and a series of tragic events that soon followed. As a small province with our tight-knit population, the impact of these events was deeply felt across our region. During this period, I had an opportunity to call numerous municipal and Indigenous leaders to speak about how their residents were coping during this difficult time. I was greatly impressed to learn how resilient and positive Nova Scotians were in adapting to these significant challenges. The wonderful residents of our province demonstrated their amazing spirit and resourcefulness as they found innovative ways to continue their volunteerism and help those who are less fortunate. In recognition of this tremendous spirit and resilience, I announced the creation of a plaque at the Celebrating Community Spirit and Volunteer Ceremony on the 28th of September 2020. It is hoped that you will display this plaque in your community. And it is the Honorable Arthur J. LeBlanc, our Lieutenant Governor. So we have this beautiful brass plaque, and it will be installed in Town Hall for viewing access to all who come to look for it. And it is in French, English, Mi'kmaq, and Gaelic. So it's absolutely beautiful. So good news does come in small packages. All right, and our next piece of new business is two new committees. So at end of day, I sent out a document for you, but the highlights of the document are that two new committees have been added to the committees of council, and these are in support of work that we have ongoing. The first is an ex officio position on the Kentville Business Community KBC Board of Directors. The intent of this position is to provide liaison between the KBC board and the town council on matters pertaining to the KBC Town of Kentville Agreement and funding of that agreement. This position will be held by the Deputy Mayor. So Deputy Mayor Savage is appointed to the KBC Board of Directors. The second committee position is in support of our commitment to the Partners for Climate Protection program. This will be a 2-year position ending in October of 2023. Councillor Huntley is appointed to the PCP committee. So if I could have a motion to adopt the committees and appointments as presented. Councillor York, thank you. And a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that committees and appointments be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. So that being the end of our business, do we have any public comments?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do have 3 confidential property business matters which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for adjournment of this meeting. So the motion is to move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session, and the question is on adoption of the motion to move into the closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried and the time is 7:37. Thank you.